Thank you so much, Paul, for that. That was fantastic. That was fantastic. Guys, please type into the chat how much you appreciate that presentation, that training. There's so much that you can go and implement right away. And those of you, of course, that want to go deeper, congratulations if you got in already. Paul, if you don't mind, can you just hang on for a little while in the chat? Um, I've got I'm going to be running a second training right now, as I mentioned earlier, a short one, just about 40 minutes, with nothing to sell, nothing to for you at the end of it except a free book. I'm just giving away a free book at the end of this training. But if anybody is ready to move forward with Paul, you've had any issues, type it into the chat right now, into the messages, and our team and Paul himself will pick it up and be able to answer you personally on that. Okay. Okay, so actually, let me get my camera back on here right now, and I'm ready to invite on a very special guest here. The reason why I am doing a very special training this evening is because a friend of mine who I've known for many, many years, in fact, over a decade at this point, has reached out to me about this incredible new book that he has written that's up on Amazon and doing really, really well. But he is very keen to share this book with people like yourselves, people who are very, very keen on rethinking where they are in their lives at this point in time, but maybe feel a little bit stuck about what they can do, what they should do, and whether they feel supported to make those steps into the, I suppose, the non-ordinary, the things that most people will never do, and then unfortunately end up regretting. So I'm really excited to have him here. He's calling in from Australia right now. So his name is Roy Carter. So please, in the chat, if you don't mind saying a big hello to Roy. Say, hey Roy, how are you?
Hello, buddy. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So Roy, let's start by letting people know where you are calling in from, so they don't feel any way jealous.
Okay. Well, I'm calling in from my home here on Magnetic Island, which is in the South Pacific, just off the Queensland coast, actually, in Australia. It's in the Coral Sea, which is part of the South Pacific. So yeah, Magnetic Island. Been here now for getting on for 8 years, and you sort of have to pry me off the island to get me to leave it nowadays.
Well, you nearly had to pry me off it, and I was only there for like 2 nights a number of years
Yeah,
ago. So, Roy, if you don't mind, just kind of giving people a background on, how you ended up, as a Brit living full time on an island off the coast of Australia, living the dream.
yeah. Well, been quite a journey. I started in corporate life actually. I started as a sales rep actually for Dunlop, a division of Dunlop in the UK, and I sort of went through quite quickly and developed through management, etc., until I reached sort of senior management level there. And so I was the typical sort of fly in a desk person at that stage. And what I was doing is I was actually driving. I was leaving my home in Cheshire and driving down to Birmingham. So I was leaving at sort of 5 o'clock in the morning and driving two odd hours down the motorway to get to work. And then at the end of the day, I would be driving home for 2 hours. And so it was, you were working 14-hour days. That was just the norm, basically. And so, I was good at my job. I was sort of initially happy with it, but then I reached a point that I think a lot of people reach, where you tend to think, is this all there is to life? And I was at that point for sure. And I thought, there must be more to life than this. This is just like the same old thing. And a lot of people do this, don't they? You're sort of coasting through life and you just find yourself in a situation where you're in a job that you don't necessarily hate, although some people obviously do, but you find yourself, you're in a job really, and I was then, just to pay the bills, really, to live the lifestyle and sort of, and pay the bills. But I'd reached a point then where I was doing pretty well in my career and everything, but I knew I wasn't being true to myself. It wasn't something that I could see myself doing for the rest of my life. And so I then made a move and actually went to work for a completely different company altogether. It was a recruitment agency company. And I went to work for them as sort of initially national sales manager and then CEO. And I built that company up so that in the end, the two partners sold it out to the Japanese, and they walked away with a few million. And then I worked for the Japanese for a while. And again, felt to myself, look, what am I doing? I'm once again, I'm stressed out. I'm going through the motions. I'm kind of, suffering from overwhelm and so much to do. And I thought, what the heck am I doing? And so what actually I thought I'd probably learn a lot from the Japanese way of doing things in business. And I did learn some stuff, but ultimately, I decided that it wasn't for me, and so I left and set up my own recruitment agency, because what they wanted to do, we were actually a food recruitment agency, and what they wanted to do is they wanted to turn it into a tech agency, and they wanted us to start binning the customers, and I wasn't prepared to do that. So I basically left and set up my own business, thinking maybe this is it. Maybe I finally found what I want to do with my life. I'm starting my own high street business. So I opened offices. My biggest client at the time was a company called Golden Wonder. I don't even remember that, Paul. Golden Wonder crisps. It used to be. Yeah, chips they call them over here. But yeah, Golden Wonder crisps. They were the biggest crisp company in the UK, and I had them as a client. But they ran this system where they used to do just-in-time, what they call just-in-time ordering. So they were saying, right, we want 300 people in across 3 shifts today. We want 100 on the morning shift, 100 on the middle shift, 100 on the evening shift, and that was to supply the supermarket just-in-time ordering. But then the following day, they might say to you, well, no, we only want 25 people today, or 30 people across 3 shifts. So they drop from 300 on the Thursday night, maybe, to only wanting 30 people the following night. And so I would be sitting at home at night, and I would be like, it'd be 9:30 at night when I got home, and I'd have my phone in one hand, and I'd be eating my dinner off my lap with the other hand, and talking to somebody about the problem that they hadn't had enough people go in or whatever, So it's a very, very stressful environment. And so to cut a long story short, because it's all in the book that we'll talk about later, but to cut a long story short, what happened was one day I actually fell in a heap with a suspected heart attack. And again, long story short, it turned out that it wasn't a heart attack, it was something called an esophagus spasm, which the layman can be forgiven for thinking is a heart attack. So the same thing, crushing pain in the chest and all this kind of thing. And there's a bit of a funny story that goes along with that. So I used to have this property that I rented near the offices in a place called Scunthorpe in England, where my staff could actually stay overnight rather than travelling all the way back home, and they could stay overnight if they wanted to. And I was staying there one evening myself with one of my managers, a guy called Nick, who was one of my branch managers. And in the middle of the night, I got up to go to the loo. Being in my sort of 40s at that time, I'd sort of developed the habit of needing to get up and go to the loo in the middle of the night, as you do when you get a bit older. And I suddenly had this massive crushing pain in my chest, and I sort of fell to the floor in the bedroom, and I fell against the door. And not to put too fine a point on it, I don't sleep with anything on. I sleep kind of au naturel. Too much information, Roy, but that's what I do. And so my colleague, or the lad who worked for me, he heard this terrific bang of me falling against the door, woke him up. He came running down the hallway, pushed open the bedroom door, and immediately saw me lying on the floor, clutching my chest, and went to call the ambulance. And so the ambulance was on its way, and Nick, in his infinite wisdom, decided that what he needed to do, he couldn't possibly let the ambulance drivers see me lying there naked. So he decides to put my underpants on for me. Rather than have them, I couldn't have cared less, because all I cared about was the pain that I had in my chest, the crushing pain in my chest. So he did that, and as I used to say, I used to tell this story on stage, didn't I? And I used to say, greater love hath no man than he puts his mate's underpants on for him. So anyway, long story short, I was taken off and I was carted off to hospital. And as I was lying in there in hospital, it was like a a light bulb moment, if you like. I thought, what am I doing? All this stress. And I had a very good doctor at the time, and he told me, I was in hospital for a few days while I figured out what it was. And he said to me, you've had this esophagus spasm, and it's brought on by stress. You're working typical corporate life. You're working all the hours God sends. You're running your own business. I was paying myself less than I was paying my staff. The business was doing really well. I think we turned over something like 3.2 million pounds or whatever. But it was what I'd done is I'd created a monster. So I'd gone from corporate life, stressed out, overwhelmed, tired and exhausted. I'd gone to creating a monster where I was doing the same again. And it's a lot of people do that. And you end up in a job that you actually, you're not being true to yourself. It's not something you really want to be doing with your life. And my doctor said to me, look, Roy, he said, this is a situation where it wasn't a heart attack this time, but it will be next time, because it's just a matter of time. It's not if, but when. And he said, you are typical of this. You are working all the hours God sent. You've got high blood pressure. You've got high cholesterol, and you need to change. You need to stop. And so it was a wake-up call for me. And so I did. I basically found jobs for all my staff with other competitors, as they were then, and I basically closed overnight. And then it was like, okay, so what do I do now? And so, as you know, what I did is I got into the online world and started learning about, different methods of making money online and things like that. Got very good at that, and was actually asked to speak at the World Internet Summit, where I met you, I think, Paul, for the first time. We were both speaking there. And, I went from there to sort of teaching people what I was doing. And how I was living my life, because by then I'd moved to Cyprus, and I've got this thing about islands, I think. I was living in Cyprus and just loving it there. And I was creating, if you remember, the guys who organized the World Internet Summit, they used to call me the EasyCast Projects guy. And so that's what I was doing, and that's what I was teaching, really. And so what I do now, though, is I still do that. I still teach people that. But the main thing that I'm doing now is I'm helping people who were in the same position as I was back then. And I think that this will probably be my legacy, if you like. I created a program that I wished I had way back then, because I created something called the DIAL program, which is DYAL. And it stands for Discover Your Alternative Lifestyle. Because like I say, most people sail through life thinking that this is all there is, and they feel trapped and they think that there's no escape. And the reason they do that is because they think that they sit there and wonder what the heck else they could do. They think, well, this is all I know how to do. I don't know what else I would do. And that's very typical. Like, people who join that program, that's very typical of them. They say, well, I've stayed stuck in this job, not because I love it or anything else. I'm stressed out to heck, but I just don't know what else I would do. And I was in the same position back then, and I didn't know what the heck else I could do. I thought, well, this is all I know, until I learned otherwise. And what I do with the DIAL program is I take people from where they are now. It's a 10-week program, and I take them from where they are now, and I show them, basically help them to get clear on what they really want to do with their life. And so, we get clarity on where they are now, where they'd like to be, and then I help them make a plan to get there. And so the reason people struggle is because they don't actually know what it is they would like to do. We've all sat there and thought, oh, I'd love to do something else. But when it actually comes down to it, the hardest thing in the world is to actually decide what it is you'd like to do. And what became apparent to me, and the reason I created the program, is because it is what I wished I'd had back then. Because I didn't have a clue. I remember, and it's in the book, actually. I tell a story in the book. I remember driving home from work one night, and I was driving for a couple of hours down the motorway. It was dark and everything else, and I was in the slow lane actually because I was about to turn off, and this lorry came past me. This truck came past me in the middle lane, and the guy was in the truck. The sort of cab was lit up or whatever, and he was just driving his truck and he was singing his head off. He just looked so happy, this guy. And I thought, that's a guy who's actually loving what he's doing. He's just enjoying his job. He's living the simple life, if you like, you know. And I thought, and you see, you start to think like, what? Maybe I could do that. You know, maybe I could be a truck driver. And then sort of reality strikes, and you realise that truck drivers don't really make that much money. So, you know, that sort of goes out the window. And you start to think what it is you could possibly do. But because you're sort of can't see the wood for the trees, because you're trapped doing the job that you're currently in and just getting on with it to pay the bills, nobody actually steps back. You know, you'll go on holiday. Like I used to go on a holiday maybe for 2 weeks somewhere, and you spend I used to spend the first 2 days of that holiday coming down from what I'd just left and wondering what was going on back there. And then I have this bit in the middle where I was sort of enjoying the holiday. And then I'd have like 3 days before the end of the holiday thinking, I wonder what I'm going back to, you know. And that's the life that people live, you know. It's like they just live for the next holiday. And then the other thing you do while you're on holiday, you tend to think to yourself, don't you? You look around yourself and you think, oh, this is gorgeous. I could live here. I could really live here. Maybe I could grow things or something, or open a little cafe or something. And everyone says that to themselves. You know, I was doing the same sort of thing. So when I started to develop methods, simple little projects, I don't like difficult. I like easy. You know, I like the easy life, if you like. So I created, you know, lots of different little projects, both online and off, actually, that provide me with a nice income and a nice lifestyle. And I teach other people to do the same thing. But really, when you get to this point, you realize that it actually isn't just about the money. And people say, well, that's all right. You know, it's all right for anyone to say who's got the money. But it actually, you know, the money's the easy bit. You know, this is what I show people in the DIAL program. The money is the easy bit because, you know, it's a 10-week program. In module 3 alone, I give people access to more methods, easy cash projects, if you like, that they can do to bring in income and pay the bills and go on holiday and things like that whenever they want. That's just week 3 of the program by itself. So money, you know, getting money is the easy bit. And yes, of course, it takes a little bit of effort, but you set these projects up and they will give you the income you want. But the program is over 10 weeks and it's over that for a reason, because it's about much more than just having the money. It's about deciding what you truly would like to do with your life and what would make you feel content and fulfilled and happy. And it's the difference between sort of waking up in the morning and thinking, oh God, you know, another day, or thinking, oh, you know, great. I mean, the lifestyle that I live now, I'm nobody special. You know, there's nothing particularly special about me. But the lifestyle I live now is like, I don't, and haven't for many years now, I don't live to alarm clock. I live on a beautiful tropical island. I wake up when I wake up, I go to sleep when I want to go to sleep. I actually now have a power nap. My wife calls it a nana nap in the afternoon about 3 o'clock. Because I hit this wall about 3 o'clock where I think, oh, you know, and I have a power nap, I have an hour and that's it, I'm great, you know, I'm good to go again. So I'm able to follow my body clock and just do that. And if we want to take a day off and just go fishing or go to one of the beaches or whatever, it's only a tiny little island, Magnetic Island. It's like, I think the inhabitants, we have something like 2,000, just over 2,000 inhabitants in total. And you can actually drive from one end of the island to the other in about 15 minutes. We've got no traffic lights here, no roundabouts or anything like that. And it's just this is me being true to myself, because this is what I want to do. For somebody else, it might be entirely different. Somebody else might want to start their own cafe, or they've always dreamed of starting their own little cafe, or, you know, whatever other type of little business they start. Or maybe they don't want to start a business. Maybe they just want to work for somebody else, but do something else. And then maybe have something on the side, maybe a couple of easy cash projects on the side, where they're doing something they love for a job, but doesn't actually pay them enough So they've got these easy cash projects on the side, but they've got work-life balance. Do you know what I mean, Paul?
Yeah, totally.
They're in a situation then where they're being true to themselves because they're doing something that they are truly happy and want to do. The difficult bit when you try to do this on your own, as I did back then, is you can jump from the frying pan into the fire, which is exactly what I did when I went and started my own business. So this is why I created the program, because I wish somebody had come along and said, here, Roy, this is the right way to do it. But no, I had to make all the mistakes and find out what doesn't work, etc. Before I realized that it's actually very difficult to decide what it is you'd like to do. That's quite a hard thing to do, to think, well, if I wasn't doing this, what would I do? And you can sit and think about that for days and weeks and not really know what it is you'd like to do. So what the DIAL program does is it gives you some clarity in terms of where you are now, what your opportunities might be. And I've had people who've taken the program say to me that it's been a situation where they've started to see opportunities all around them. And when the pressure's taken off, so when you've got like the money hand, the basic money handle, your bills are being paid and you can go on holiday or whatever else, you can relax a little bit more. You can start to, and when you do that, you actually do start to see lots of opportunities and ideas all around you about things that you'd actually like to do. And I get so many people now who've been through the DIAL program and saying, I really am discovering my alternative lifestyle. This is the lifestyle I should have had ages ago, and now, we're working towards. And it doesn't happen overnight. I think people understand you have to be real about it. This isn't something that happens overnight. But if you don't start now, before it's too late, then people reach the point where it is. They know that if they don't actually do something now, they're probably realistically never going to do anything. So it's like, I know that if I don't grasp the situation now and actually start to make a plan to make my life better, it's never going to be better. And that's the truth of it. And I think deep down everybody knows that. Yeah. So I'm just glad I did, and I'm glad I went through the process. And I've got people now in the DIAL program who joined me when they were completely overwhelmed. They didn't really have a clue about what possible other work they could do to make a living. They didn't have a clue about what side income projects they could get going quite quickly to bring them income in. And they were just stuck, but they felt trapped. And this word trapped keeps coming up all the time when I talk to people who first join the program, and I have a conversation with them and they say, it just all feels too much. It's overwhelming, and so what we do what I do in the DIAL program with them, I show them that there is a way of life that's far less relentless, a much more relaxed way of life that you actually think you can't, that others have and you can't have, and that's not the case. Basically, I show people that they can have that. I show them how they can have it, and I help them to sort of create a plan to get there. And so by the end of the 10-week program, it sort of takes them in here at the beginning where they're in this life of feeling trapped. And then realization strikes. So really it's about getting people to think differently than they are now. It's sort of hard to describe really, but the word clarity comes up all the time from people in the DIAL program, because that's what it does. It gives you clarity on what it is what the possibilities are for you. You start to see like, oh, this different possibility, or that, or I could do that. And now I realize that there is stuff I can do. And with the projects as well, the little projects as well. I say there's more of those in week 3 alone. I give people access to that, week 3 of 10, that you actually just don't need any more. There's far more in there than you could ever do to create little side income projects. But it gives you that breathing space then to say, okay, let's make a plan. Am I happy where I am? No, I'm not. That's why I'm here. But where would I like to live? Who would I like to live with when I'm there? And it starts to get people to look really closely at their life in terms of their finances, their health, and where they want to be and the direction they want to be going in. And then once you've got that, you then have a pathway to follow. and you have a plan to follow. It's like, you develop this plan where you're saying, I know where I'm going now. I know what I want to do. I know my first step is this. I know my next step is that. And that builds momentum, because each time you do a small piece of the puzzle to take you along that path, it can lead you to a life that you really don't think is possible for you right now.
Sometimes people have the map, right? Sometimes people have the map, but they don't know where the destination is. And what
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I call it. It's like going to a railway station and saying, "Can I have a ticket, please?" And they says, "So where would you like a ticket to?" And you say, "Well, I don't know. I just want to go somewhere." And you don't know, if you don't know what your destination is, how do you get there? So this helps. The DIAL program is called DYAL, Discover Your Alternative Lifestyle. That program is given me personally more fulfillment than anything I've ever done, because I'm seeing people now who, I've had people in tears, saying that, being very flattering and saying it's been a godsend, and it's changed their life completely, and think one thing and another. And I think I told you just before we came on, I've got a guy at the moment who's running his own business in America. This is the most recent guy who's joined me, actually. And he's just been in a situation where he is working like literally probably 18 hours a day. And he's actually got his own traditional business, and he's just working all the hours God sends. And he didn't think there was possibly a way out at all. And now he's seeing that there is. And the relief, just when you talk to him and all the emails he sends me and things like that, the relief shining through already. And that's a typical thing that happen. I have people who go on holiday for the first time ever. Not first time ever, first time in years, because they think they can't leave. The business can't do without them, or their job can't do without them, or are scared of going on holiday. In case like they lose their job because they've taken time off, and stupid things like that. I had a lovely lady in America who, from Hawaii, who had a parent. She was looking after a parent with dementia. And her husband, excuse me, her mother had dementia, and her father was heading that way, and she was having to look after them and try to hold down a job as well. And she thought the world had ended, basically, and she felt trapped and felt there just isn't a way out of this. It's impossible. But when you start to realize and understand that there are things you can do that actually start you down the path to creating those side income projects, or just giving yourself some breathing space in other ways, and talk about that in the course as well. And the whole idea is that you are definitely not as trapped as you think you are, because there are, as a phrase I use often is, there is a way of life that is far less relentless. Because it is relentless when you're living your life like that. You're wondering how you're going to pay the next bills. You're wondering how you can, juggle all these balls in the air at the same time, and you're completely stressed out. Sometimes that affects your relationship. It certainly affects your health, and it's no way to live. I mean, there just isn't any need to live your life like that and to do work that you hate. Life's too short to do work that you hate, or work that makes you miserable. And so this is me waffling on now, but that's the kind of legacy that I'm creating. You
don't want to have to find yourself, laid out in the middle of a floor, clothes on, clothes off, but like for that to be your moment of, you can decide at any point that, look, enough is enough. But I think a big fear, Roy, that people have is, let's say you're 48, you feel in your head, okay, it's taken me 48 years to get to this. And it's almost the unsaid belief system that people have as well. If I want to match what I'm making, you're kind of thinking it's going to take me decades, right? Because it took me 50 years the first time. It's got to take roughly that the next time. Otherwise, it's a complete scam. And that's the whole irony of the internet business. It's like, no, we just need somebody that's relatively intelligent that can press buttons in the right order,
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I talk about offline projects as well in the DIAL program. Offline projects. I mean, people don't understand that they can. This is why I say the money is the easy bit. Choosing what you want to do with your life is the difficult bit. You know, making a plan to get there is where you need help. But the money is the easy bit, really, because the thing is, it's all about making a decision to do it, to finally say, this isn't acceptable anymore. I can't go on like this. I don't want to live, you know, I don't want to just spend my life just getting older. I want to create a life for myself and my family that is actually worthwhile. And not just about the money, but about the feeling and the fulfillment of being true to, of doing something that is being true to yourself and making yourself happy. And it does start with a decision to do it, because, you know, you can make it, it's all about a decision, but the point is you do get to choose, and people don't understand that they've got a choice. You do get to choose. I mean, you can one choice is to stay exactly where you are. That's a choice. And there's a price to pay for that choice. And the price you pay for that choice is that you are going to spend the rest of your life doing what you're doing until they put you in your box, and that's the end of it. That's you know, that's what happens when you make that choice. But you do get to choose. You can stay where you are and choose that decision to stay where you are, or you can choose to start making a plan now that gives you the steps. And once you've got the plan in front of you, and you say, right, okay, this is now, I know what I'm going to do. I know where I'm heading. I know that this is going to lead me to doing something that I love, that I didn't even thought of before. And I know that this is where my money's coming from. The difference it makes to people's lives is my reason for doing this now. Like, you know, I'm you know, happily in a position where if I really wanted to, I probably wouldn't have to do anything. But that didn't just fall out of the sky. That made, I could have still been back there now. In fact, I probably wouldn't have been back there now. I'd have been in a box, because in the book, you know, this is the book I'm talking about. In the book, shameless plug for the book. But this is what I was talking to you about before. The book is called Laying Naked on the Floor When My Colleague Walked In, and discover why this event led me to now living on a tiny but very beautiful tropical island. And this is the story. It's a short read. It's you can probably read it in a lunch hour, actually. But people have said, you know, this is the thing that actually started them down the path. And yeah, you've shown on the screen there, people can get this by going to paulandroy.com. I've created that, where it is available on Amazon, but basically for your guys, they can go to paulandroy.com and they can actually download a free copy, a free PDF copy from there. And that tells the story of what it took, where I was, and how I ended up living where I'm living now, happy as a pig in the proverbial. Happy as a pig in poo, I think.
I have that visual of the pigs in the Bahamas. You know, the ones that swim in the sea.
Yeah.
They're the happiest of all pigs.
Yeah.
But you know, what you think, Roy, is really resonated, and I'm sure it does for the crowd at home, is the difference between saying I choose X versus, oh no, I have to do this and I have to do that. And that's definitely an exercise that you should just, like, immediately start listening or trying to catch yourself out. How often on a day-to-day basis do you keep saying to yourself, oh no, it's different for me, I have to do that, I have to.
Correct.
It's like a child who never grew up. You know, you have to do what your parents told you, but the moment that you leave their house, you don't have to do what they say anymore, right? Different rules, different house. So if you could even change your language to, no, I choose to get up and be miserable and do something I hate. And just the fact that you said the choose to bit, it makes you feel a little bit responsible for, okay, right, I'm not in reactionary mode. I'm choosing to do this. So do I choose to do it tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, it's more about, this is why I say it's about getting people to think differently. And although I say so myself, the Dial program really is getting people to think much differently and look at things differently in the way they were before. That's why they start to see opportunities all over the place. You know, it's not about you know, I'm not flicking any switch on in your brain, but people have said it's like that. It's a case of it's like looking for reasons why you can rather than reasons why you can't, you know, is a big part of it. Because you do get people, you've had people say the same thing to you as you've just explained. I have to me. They say, you know, like I was on the phone with a guy the other day, and And I said, okay, have you thought of this? And he said exactly that. Everything was yes, but I see what you're saying, Roy, but in my position, but. And then I showed him a picture of a picture of a guy and who had been in a far worse position than he is now or would ever be. And I showed him what working with me had done. And I showed him the testimonial that the guy had sent, which was a lovely testimonial. And that's the sort of stuff, you know yourself, that's the sort of, when you get feedback like that, that's the sort of stuff that fulfills you. And this guy said he called me an absolute godsend, etc., etc. And he said he was living a life that he really didn't like in the UK. And he was sending me this email from, where was it from? Thailand. And he said he had rented out his home in the UK, and he now knew exactly what he was going to do going forward. And he was just off down to the estate agents to sort out his house in Thailand. And he was going to do the thing that I ended up doing, which, well, when it came to Magnetic Island, first of all, I lived 6 months in the UK, and then 6 months in Cyprus, and 6 months on Magnetic Island until I moved here permanently. And he ended up doing the same. He was spending 6 months in England and 6 months in Thailand, and actually living a life that he was enjoying living instead of being overwhelmed all the time, etc. So yeah, there are, you do have to approach things in a different, you do have to decide. The first thing you have to do is decide. You have to decide, I'm not putting up with this any longer. I will not allow myself to carry on living a life like this when I know there's an alternative lifestyle I could be living if only I just actually started to make a plan to get there. And when you make a decision like that, the first decision you need to make is to go to paulandroy.com, obviously, Paul.
Of course.
And get the book.
Ask yourself the question, is like, well, what would need to happen in my life to wake me up to make a decision that, this isn't acceptable anymore? And if you have that honest discussion, say, God, it probably would be a heart attack, or God, it probably would be a death in my family, or whatever, and then think, well, what headspace are you going to be in then? Because you just don't know, will you be physically able? Will you be mentally able? So then
That's right.
The only thing we're certain of in life is death. But we kind of act as if it's never going to happen. But if you actually realize this is the youngest you're ever going to be, I mean, when is a better time to get started on the path, obviously, than now? You're never going. And I'm sure, Roy, you'll probably agree on this. But I think when you make that decision about your career lifestyle, let's call it, your health suddenly starts to be taken care of too. You start to become more aware of what you're eating, your habits. Like maybe you were probably, I'm going to guess, staying up late, eating some of your own golden Wonder crisps that you were being sent for free, up early, staying
back
up late,
in those days,
candles at both ends, no time for yourself, no exercise, no meditation, no mindfulness. None of that. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, I have people coming to me who are on the verge of losing their relationship because of the way that they are living their life. Because when you are that full on and that stressed out, your relationship can't help but suffer. Your partnership with whoever you're with can't help but suffer because you are not there. You're not there with him. You're mentally somewhere else. You're mentally stressed out all the time. And you're worrying about money. You're worrying about paying the bills. You're worrying about work. You're worrying about what the heck would happen if I lose my job. Because that's the dangerous position that people are in, and the dangerous position I was in back then. They could have flipped the switch on me at any time and said, "Sorry, you're out." And I do tell a story in a different course about. No, in fact, I have to tell it in the Dial program, and that is about. The person who, in fact, I tell it in the book actually as well. And it's a story about, I won't go into the full thing, you can get the book, but it's about a guy who thought his job was safe and et cetera, et cetera. And, then one day the hammer fell and he wasn't going home in his company car anymore. He was catching the bus home and he had to tell his wife just before Christmas that he'd lost his job. And he didn't have a plan B. Do you know what I mean? He did not have a plan B. So there's no better time, as you just said a few minutes ago, there's no better time than now to start creating a plan B. But there's also no better time than now to actually start designing the life that you want. You know, I called it discover your alternative lifestyle, because that's what it does for people. It allows them to discover their alternative lifestyle. But I nearly called it design your alternative lifestyle, because effectively that's what it does when you're in the program. It helps you design where you're going to go to, you know, what you truly want from life, really, Paul.
The ultimate interior design, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, that's a good, I might steal that. That's a good way of putting it, yeah. The ultimate interior design, I love it, yeah.
Well, one of the things I talk about in, as our listeners will know when we're chatting in the workshop, and we can wrap it up here in a couple of minutes, but I always refer to that book of the top 5 regrets of the dying. And the number 1 regret that they have is, I wish I had been truer to myself.
Yes.
Maybe we just touch back on that point again, because if you know that that's going to be your biggest regret at the end, why wait till then, right? Why not just address that immediately?
I think, Paul, that everybody knows, that people know when they're not being true to themselves. It's this feeling of unfulfillment, dissatisfaction. It's a creeping thing that comes up, and I think it comes up on most people. You know, the number of, I think I read some statistics somewhere the other day, you know, and it was something ridiculous in America that something like 82% of people wish they could leave their job and do something else instead. But I guarantee that a lot of those 82% of people don't have a plan B, and I guarantee that they wouldn't know what else they would do if they did leave their job, because there's no clarity on that. But this feeling of fulfillment is what being true to yourself is all about. You know when you're in that zone. You know when what you're doing is something that you love, rather than doing it just for a reason and a purpose, you know. And I can't describe to you the difference in my own life, that from where I am now, you know, good God, living where I am now, and you know, with who I'm with, my lovely wife, and just the difference between now and then is universes apart. And you know, and this is what I'm trying to do, and am doing for other people right now in the Dial program, is taking them from where they are now and spitting them out at the other end, if you like, with a plan to get to somewhere that's going to lead to a much more fulfilled and happy life. And as I said to you, you know, everyone thinks, oh, it's all about the money. You know, I had someone say to me the other day, do you know, it's wonderful. And he said, I realized what you said at the outset was true, because he said he initially was saying, well, I couldn't leave where I am and go like you have, and you know, and just live on an island somewhere. I said, oh really? And why would that be? And he said, because what was his reasoning was, oh, because you know, I've got kids at school. And I said, you know what, it's really strange, but we've got kids on the island who go to school. And he said, yeah, but you know, my family, I know my wife would miss my family, you know, her family and all the rest of it. And I said, you know what, when you live on an island, your family tends to want to visit you all the damn time. and so he, you know, he's got to finish the program now, actually. So it's just a different way of thinking. It's looking at life differently. And ultimately being able to see the opportunities that are there for you and making a plan to get them. End of story, really.
Well, thank you so much, Roy. So for people to get the book, as you mentioned, they just need to go to paulandroy.com and they can get that book and start reading immediately, right?
They can. I say it's a fairly quick read. It can be read in a lunch hour, and at the end of the book, there is the opportunity to go and watch a video that tells you a little bit about the Dial program, and you'll know. You know, you'll know if it resonates with you. You'll know if the book resonates with you, and you'll know if the video that you watch resonates with you. And if it does, you know, you can take things further and get my help if you want to. And if not, I hope you'll enjoy reading the book anyway, because I think you'll get some light bulbs going off when you read the book as well. So that's paulandroy.com, and you can get it for free. You guys can get it for free there.
Brilliant. Okay, well, Roy, honestly, a huge thank you for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. I know time is precious on the island. You could be doing a
Yeah.
lot more valuable things than sitting chatting to me. But guys, if you don't mind typing into the chat, a huge thank you to Roy, and the biggest thank you of all you can give to Roy is just jump on, get the book. There's there's literally no catch here.
That's right.
You can go and start reading that book right away, and it might be that spark that you need to just allow you to feel that, especially if you keep saying to yourself, I can't and I can't, I have to do this and the other. You don't, right? You don't, and Roy is living proof of it. It is never too late to start until it becomes too late, right? And if you're here today, it's not too late yet, because you obviously haven't given up hope, or you wouldn't be listening to us. So we really appreciate you, Roy, coming on. Thank you so much. Give my love to Lynn, of course, as well.
I will.
And we hope to have you on soon again.
Thank you, buddy. Good to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Roy. Take care, everyone.
Bye for now. Bye.
Oh, that was so cool. So nice to hear. And it's rare you meet someone as genuine as Roy. What an incredible guy. And you're, as he said, you're only getting little tidbits here. So in the book itself, you're going to get so much more. So there's the link again. Please, there's no catch here. You just read the book, and you decide if you want to take things to the next level. For me, it's just really important you just get the book, just have a look at it, read through it. And as he said, you can read through it over a really short period of time. You can even finish it late tonight, depending on where you are in the world. So again, thank you, Roy, and thank you, Paul, for being on as well. An incredible presentation. Paul is still around if you have any last questions, if you're interested in joining his program. And again, if you want to download Roy's free book, all you got to do is click on the link in front of you right now, paulandroy.com. So again, thank you for being here again this evening. Really, really appreciate you being here. It's because you're here that allows me to bring the likes of Paul and Roy directly to you from all around the world. So, and again, we will see you back here on Saturday. I'll let you know on Friday who the lineup is. Thank you again. Thank you to everybody in the chat from my team who's been managing your questions. If you have any last questions, just pop them in and we'll chat to you shortly.